Tonight at 8 o'clock, we look at where the idea of women's safety figures in New India. This week was perhaps the worst in many months when it comes to the safety of our daughters, who continue to bear the brunt of horrific abuse, the most barbaric of crimes, even before they're born. Take the case of Haryana, the state considered the most notorious when it comes to gender count. Concerning news came this week that the sex at birth or SRB ratio between January and June in the state has fallen sharply to the worst levels since 2016. It did see significant improvement in the past couple of years, but it's now starting to dip again, which comes as a serious blow to the government's beti bachao, beti padhao campaign, one of its major political planks when it comes to women's safety. The reason? Well, illegal sex determination tests being conducted in a coordinated interstate racket. This is what has come to light now. But as questions are being raised on falling sex ratio at birth, the situation of our young daughters, little girls in fact, is the same. In just the past 1 week, reports of rape of minor girls dominated the headlines. Well, in Satna, an 11-year-old girl was raped, bitten, brutalized by a temple committee worker. Just today, in a horrifying incident, a 5-year-old was brutally raped and strangled to death. Her body was in fact dumped in a sack. These numbers of rape cases and falling sex ratio, well, are not just statistics. These are girls with dreams who deserve dignity. At 8 o'clock tonight, we ask, where have we come? How far or how far back have we gone when it comes to the idea of women's safety? Whether in the womb or in life, are India's daughters safe anywhere? Joining me tonight by a special panel, Dr. Vikram Singh, who is a former DGP of Uttar Pradesh. Also with us, Jagmati Sangwan, women's activist. Brinda Adige, social and women's activist, also with us. Sumitra V. Goenka, member of the Center for Knowledge Sovereignty, is also with us. She's a political analyst and supports the government. Well, coming right across to you, Professor Vikram Singh, this whole new idea of having wireless and portable machines, this new interstate coordinated racket that has come to light in Haryana, that is one of the major reasons why this, sex at birth ratio has fallen for the first time in many years. How do we crack down on this? Have these people actually become immune to the regular raids and inspections that the police conducts when it comes to, such illegal sex determination cases or, abortion clinics, etc.? Do we need to evolve a new mechanism when it comes to police crackdown in such cases? Now that, they have wireless portable machines that they're using and targeting vulnerable families for sex determination.
I would say that I must congratulate you for putting a very pertinent and a very contemporary logical question. And the answer to this is, it is not rocket science if you want to pin it down. Where there is a will, there is a way. Technology has always been the stronghold of organized gang of criminals, and I dare say it is not an ordinary crime, it is organized crime. And like any organized crime, like cyber crime, technology is used and weaponized to the extent to make more money and profits. In this case, to none in its use of technology. They have come down heavily when it comes to cybercrime. And this is very basic when it comes to, yes, it is for the first time that I have heard that technology is being used, including wireless communication, encrypted communication, to further their own profits and also to endanger the women of this country. Now, if the police had you have a team of informers, of technology, you have the wherewithal also to encrypt and also decipher, intercept and collect whatever information there is in the airfield and also in the mobile communication.
Right.
Whether it is encrypted or open communication, you can always decipher it and come down like a ton of bricks. But again, I would say, where there is a will, there is a way. Like any organized crime, I hope I'm wrong, the police is not complicit.
Absolutely. There's a very important point, and we'll come to police reforms, which of course is a very significant part of the debate. But Ms. Brinda Adige, you're also with us on the broadcast. Let me take this question to you. This whole idea of sex determination. Now, more than, busting rackets, which is of course very important and should be the first, response of the police, it needs more of a grassroots solution, awareness on the part of these families who are actually targeted by these coordinated interstate rackets. Many of the women, in fact, are not aware of something as basic as the fact that, the gender of the fetus depends on the man. So, they're actually victimized by the families. They're actually targeted. Most of them are from poor families. So this needs more of a grassroots solution, some sort of awareness on the ground, more than just, this sort of targeting by the police.
You're absolutely right. It does require grassroots intervention, but it also requires structural interventions. We are talking of education at the grassroots to families, to women, to communities, to leaders, to panchayats, to everybody. But we are also talking about education to children in colleges and to leaders, especially leaders who are there with the people. Right. Religious leaders, if they do not raise these issues, then it continues to be a patriarchal menace, because continuously it is the blame that is being placed on the woman for giving birth to a girl child. They do not want to accept that science is what that requires to be told. And this is not simply about people who are literate. Those who are literate also continue with the same thing. Absolutely. Because it is not simply that. It is also no action being taken against such crimes.
Jagmati Sangma, let me bring you on this. How do we go about creating this awareness? Because, there is some sort of awareness now after all these schemes. In fact, we must point out here that in the past couple of years, from 2016 to 2022, the sex at birth ratio, in fact, started getting better. And if you can have that graphic up. But it was only in this particular year that we saw that, this sex at birth ratio started dipping. And that, as we've mentioned, is because of these illegal sex determination tests. How do we actually, sensitize these families who come from very poor areas, very poor families, I beg your pardon, and also many of them are without education, but they do have access at least to, all the information that is available online. How do we go about educating and sensitizing them?
Vedant, actually the data shows that the sex determination test adoption is comparatively much higher in educated families and those who are very well exposed to the social realities. And at the same time, I want to say that there is a link between the safety, security of women and the falling sex ratio. In the recent years, there is an increase of 27% of violence against women. And at the same time, when we go to these women in villages and when we ask them the question, why don't they want to give birth to daughters? It's a patriarchal mindset, of course, but at the same time, the reason lying behind is insecurity and dowry. The insecurity factor is much more dominating in that way. Yes, there is a need of awareness at the level of families, but at the same time, the political will to implement the PCP and beti Act.
Absolutely, that's a very important point. That's a very important point because as per data, many of these cases are still pending. In fact, many of these, the accused who are actually arrested, they're out on bail very soon and they continue to, conduct these rackets. So that's a very important point that the people who are actually arrested in this, under this particular act get bail very quickly. And this we are talking about, the Preconception Prenatal Diagnostic Techniques Act. Now, this is very important. Many people who are arrested get bail very quickly. But Sumitra Vegoenka is also with us. Another important point here is that, do you see this as some sort of a blow to the government's beti bachao, beti padhao scheme? And do you think that's become more sort of a welfare scheme than actually changing much on the ground, even though we have to say that some figures are impressive, at least in the past 5 years, as far as the sex ratio is concerned. But now, is there a time to relook at, take a relook at this beti bachao, beti padhao scheme?
Yeah, Vedant, so I would say that, see, the government's role is to bring in schemes, to bring awareness and to bring changes in the mindset of people. Now, if you see the kind of programs that the government has run, not only in Haryana but across India, there has been definitely a marginal shift in the sex ratio, like per thousand male. If you look at 2015-16 data, India, then it is 919, and if you look at 21, then it is around 929. Now, if you look at Haryana itself, which was one of the lowest at 836, it has increased to 893. Now, what you're saying is true that probably this year it has shown a dip for some reasons, because of technology or because of some internal reasons. I think the government of Haryana as well as the central government should really investigate what are the reasons here. And if the one of the reasons is because no action is getting taken against the people who are responsible for these kind of things, then definitely a thought process has to go into it, and the government has to act immediately, because
Absolutely.
this is something which is not acceptable at any level. And I'm sure none of the state governments, whether it is a BJP run state government or any other state government, I would say everybody is looking towards improving this ratio, because unless this ratio is improved, you will not have a healthy citizenship. So there will be different concerns at the later stage. Like we already have seen how in Punjab earlier the sex ratio has caused a lot of migration of women from different states.
Right.
We can see that in other areas also. So this should be avoided. At the same time, a solid awareness campaign should be probably rerun by the government in case it is not reaching to the last level, and action should be taken against the people, the hospitals, the doctors, the parents.
Some sort of government intervention is required, at all levels. But let me actually break it down for you as to what our investigation revealed. How is this modus operandi actually carried out? So, well, if you can actually go full frame on that graphic and give you a sense of how these coordinated groups carry out sex determination. Well, the first thing that they do is target families. They target families which are vulnerable in terms of their income, in terms of literacy, and then they have these portable wireless machines. They have these wireless machines which they use for sex determination. So now the sex determination is not happening at some clinic or dispensary, and in fact there are nurses and quacks who are selling these sex determination machines, and they're carrying out this process, and that is why the government is unable to actually crack down on them. So this is like a new way of sex determination, a new technique of sex determination that has come to light. Very, very concerning. But the other aspect of our debate tonight, well, while we say that the girl child in the womb is not safe, the girl child in life isn't safe either. Chilling incidents of minor girls being raped have been reported in 1 week, starting with Meerut, where a 17-year-old girl was raped, paraded and beaten. The accused has been arrested in this particular case, including the victim's husband-to-be. Another very horrific incident came to light from Satna in Madhya Pradesh, where an 11-year-old was raped, bitten and brutalized. In this case, the two accused have been arrested as well. And in Satna itself, another case where a 17-year-old was raped by a man in the village, and this was the second incident of minor rape within just 4 days. And just today, in Ernakulam in Kerala, a 5-year-old was raped, strangled, and she was strangled to death, and a body was dumped in a sack. In Chhattisgarh as well, a 6-year-old tribal girl was raped in the premises of the ashram school there. Let me go across to you, Professor Vikram Singh. In many of these cases, one thing that is long due, are police reforms. In many of these cases, the minor girls were raped in public places. In one of these cases, it was very close to a world-famous shrine, the Maihar temple in Satna. In one of these cases, it was, inside the premises of a school. So that means this points to major lapses when it comes to security, when it comes to CCTVs being in place, and also a delayed PCR response as something that we've been debating forever now. How do we look at police reforms when all these incidents are still being reported?
I think that is a very long answer to what you have asked, but I will try to encapsulate in 5 bullet points. Women's security has to be placed on priority number 1 and not priority number 10. Police station, you will forgive me, works like a boys' club. we trivialize atrocities against women, whereas it should be given priority number one. Technology has to be introduced. The 13th Criminal Law Amendment Act that was introduced after the Nirbhaya case, we have torn into shreds all the solemn guidelines given by the Honorable Supreme Court. How are the women to be interrogated? How such matters are to be investigated? Section 166A of the IPC, in case there is delinquency or negligence on the part of the police officer, ask yourself, has any police officer been prosecuted for 166A? The number of acquittals that have happened in case of Unnao, Kuldeep Singh Chauhan case, the Hathras case, whatever happened, every statute in the rule book was torn into shreds. Therefore, we need to sensitize the police. Number three, the CCTV and the technology. And wherever a woman's body has been used as a point to settle scores and vendetta, National Security Act should be invoked, as also the provisions of the UP Gangsters Act and the Makoka. Right. The certainty of punishment is the only deterrent.
That's a very important point there. Of course, as you rightly mentioned, many of the police stations are actually a boys' club. But Ms. Brinda, come in on this point of how, the most vulnerable are, the worst hit when it comes to these cases. In one of these cases, the girl was a migrant. In one of these cases, she was from a scheduled caste family. So we also have to understand that, it's the most vulnerable that are the worst hit, and there are many layers to it as well. That there's this whole caste angle and, this migrant worker angle also when it comes to rape.
You're absolutely right. It is the poor, it is the vulnerable, it is the migrant people, and caste absolutely plays one of the most prominent roles over here. And that is why, with everything that Professor Vikram spoke about, we also need to ensure that there is a separate wing that is as important as law and order or crime that is generally put into every police station to look into cases of crimes against women and children and violence against women and children. But more than that, we also want a convergent, coordinated action between the prosecution and the judiciary, because we hear of a case that might get registered and an investigation is completed, but we never hear what happens to that case for the next 8 to 10 years. So the judiciary cannot be absolved. Fast-tracking the court, stringent punishment, swift punishment is the need of the day.
In fact, Sumitra Goenka, come in on this point, because this whole point of fast-track courts and cases pending in courts for years on end, unless it's, for a lack of a better word, a high-profile case, these cases disappear completely from the media space, and also, as Brinda DK was also pointing out, the judiciary cannot be absolved as well. What do we do about fast-tracking these cases when it comes to such horrific rapes?
See, I think the priority has to go for these kind of cases. While I completely agree with both the panelists who spoke before me, one with respect to the judicial reforms and secondly with respect to Ms. Adige talking about judicial urgency. So if you look at judiciary, I personally feel that, they are prioritizing such cases which are not really that important. Like we recently saw that, the Supreme Court can even open for some cases at midnight. But do we really prioritize these cases where a woman needs justice? If justice is delayed, then justice is denied. The Honorable President of India had recently highlighted also that, a judiciary has to look at reforms, especially with reference to bail of people, and also with reference to the priority of the cases, because there are many people who are victims of this judicial delay, and that
absolutely. And as you rightly pointed out, Sumitra, that justice delayed is justice denied. That's a very important point there. But Jagmati Sangwan, another significant aspect is the underreporting of the rape cases. How do we ensure that rape cases are actually reported? Because there's a lot of stigma attached to it as well. Families many a time don't want to come out and report cases, particularly the ones which involve such kind of brutality. So what do we do about underreporting of rape cases?
Vedanta, after the Nirbhaya case, when this Justice Verma committee came, the reporting aspect increased like anything. Because people were feeling assured that when they go to the Thana, when they go to the police, they are bound to take action against the accused. But now the signals being sent by the government itself are very irresponsible in cases of crimes against women. For example, in the cases of Brij Bhushan case, we are witnessing that how he has been defended out and out.
Absolutely.
In Haryana, Ram Rahim, the accused of rape and murder in the garb of religious leader,
That's
is
a very
being
important
given
point. You know, some
parole
sort of political.
every day.
Yeah, some sort of political.
Vedant, can I make a point here?
Yeah, political power
at the
is
same
something
time,
that is also
utterances-
responsible for the underreporting of case and defending the accused, as you rightly pointed out, like in the Brij Bhushan case. Jagmati Sangwan, I'm afraid I'm running completely out of time. Let me get Professor Vikram Singh. The last word, please.
India and states,
Can I make a point
are,
here, please?
Actually not serious about their duties. This also, I
Yes.
want to say, they are also issuing very irresponsible statements
Yes.
when it comes
So
to the
politicians
crime
need to
against
be
women.
more responsible and sensitive when it comes to rape cases. But Professor
Women
Vikram Singh,
Commission
the last
Yeah, I
question
think
to
we
you
should
very
take it
quickly.
in general, not
the fact
target
that
a particular state, though, I feel.
yes, the fact that many of these
Because we have
cases are
seen
happening
in
in
the case
tier
of
2 and tier
Archbishop
3
Mokhtar
cities.
also.
Professor Vikram Singh, many of these cases are happening in tier 2, tier 3 cities. How do we make our cities safer for women? What is your last word on that?
My hands-on experience against these rapists is that the three ingredients of this crime primarily are pornography, drugs, alcoholism, and a feeling that they will go unpunished. Therefore, come down like a ton of bricks, make exemplary punishment, ensure proper prosecution punishment, and you will ensure there is a steep decline and a sense of security prevails.
All right. Thanks so much to all of you for joining us on a very important topic. We'll continue to track that story very, very closely. Concerning that, it remains to be seen whether our governments and our leaders and, well, our collective conscience will wake up and whether we'll be able to give our daughters the safety and the dignity they deserve. That's all that we have on 8 o'clock tonight. Good night and keep watching.